Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. We begin with breaking news tonight, confirmation of multiple deaths on a First Nation in southern Saskatchewan. According to Chief Scott Ishpi of the Cega'kin Nakota Nation, or Carry the Kettle in southern Saskatchewan, a homicide investigation is underway. Cega'kin is located about 100 kilometers east of Regina, just south of St. Aluda. In a statement to band members, Chief Ishpi said, "We had a break and enter in one of our homes last night, and we ask everyone to please stay clear as there has been a homicide on the north side of the reserve." He asked if anyone has information, please call local police. In a press release, Saskatchewan RCMP and the Files Hills First Nation Police Services were short on details, saying that there is an increased presence in Carry the Kettle in relation to an ongoing investigation. They're now saying that they can confirm 4 people were located deceased in a home. People are being asked to avoid the area where police are present, and if there is an imminent risk to public safety, RCMP will notify the public. In a separate social media post made later in the afternoon, leadership of the Cowessess First Nation tells its members that there will be an increased police presence in the Cega'kin First Nation near Grenfell. They added suspects from the Carry the Kettle quadruple homicide may be in the area and are considered armed. The emergency response team is en route. Please lock your doors, stay inside and stay safe. We will update our members as we receive more information. So will we here at APTN News, and look for more on our website, aptnnews.ca. The former chief of police of the Anishinaabe Asking Police Service was terminated in October 2024. Now he's firing back with a lawsuit against the service. Roland Morrison was the chief of NAPS, the largest First Nations police service in Canada, from April 2019 to October 2024. When the NAPS board announced his termination. In a statement of claim, Morrison, who had 27 years of service with NAPS, is seeking $2.5 million in lost wages and other damages. Morrison was placed on administrative leave in March 2024, pending an investigation into a discrimination complaint made by a NAPS employee, allegations of which Morrison has denied. Morrison says he was never provided with the results of the investigation, but he had previously been told by board representatives that it would not impact his employment. He alleges NAPS engaged in a fishing expedition to try and find something that could justify his termination. Morrison also alleges he was discriminated against and that most senior positions in NAPS are occupied by non-Indigenous personnel. NAPS has filed a notice that it will defend the action. You can find much more on this story on our website. Today in Winnipeg, the province and the feds said they were going to spend $81 million on a railway that connects to the northern port of Churchill. They say the funding is aimed at improving international trade and boosting the northern economy. Canada is earmarking $45.3 million, and Manitoba is dedicating $36.4 million over 2 years to the Arctic Gateway Group. The group is a partnership between 29 First Nations and 12 remote communities in Manitoba. They own the port of Churchill. The funding will help finish much-needed repairs to the rail line, improve passenger service, and improve the transportation of essential goods and critical minerals. Canada will also invest another $2.3 million on training Northerners to work in the mining industry. At a press conference Tuesday, Liberal MP for St. Boniface, Dan Vandel, spoke about the importance of the investments.
Canada needs their federal leadership for Churchill, for the North, and for the entire country. And in these unpredictable times, and I'm being polite, in these unpredictable times we are currently living in, investing in the North and the Arctic is more important than ever. But investing in Churchill, Manitoba is the same. It is more important than ever. And I know I speak for Manitoba Caucus when I say that we will be supporting Churchill for as long as it takes. Vive la Canada!
Meanwhile, federal and provincial officials were at a border security exercise this morning in the Manitoba border town of Emerson.
So the machines themselves are dual mode, meaning that they'll identify illicit drugs, controlled substances, and also explosives.
The meeting included members of the RCMP and Canadian Border Services Agency. It came a day after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and U.S. President Donald Trump agreed to a border security deal, which paused tariffs from being imposed today. Public Safety Minister David McGuinty outlined some of the measures that will help strengthen border security along the border.
Canada is committed to ensuring 24/7 eyes on the border through the round-the-clock surveillance commitment. In combination with others, nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are working on our border. We're mobilizing law enforcement and civilian forces with new and modernized equipment. You've heard about that. A couple of Black Hawk helicopters, 60 drones, not purchased from China, built in the United States, to national security standards in both the United States and Canada.
We have to have 24/7 eyes on the border. And the only way that we're going to do that is if we work together. And so to see this collaboration in person, CBSA, RCMP, Customs and Border Patrol, from our American friends, conservation officers, EMO, First Nations police, everybody working together, that's how we're going to get it done.
Continued tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump has shaken up business leaders in this country and has started conversations about doing things differently and how Canada can become less reliant on U.S. trade. This also includes Indigenous business leaders. Tabitha Bull is the president of the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business, and she's also a member of the recently launched Council on Canada-U.S. Relations. She joins us from Toronto. Ms. Bull, thanks so much for taking some time here for us. A lot of moving parts. It would appear, though, that Canada has been granted a brief reprieve of 30 days from the tariffs. Does this mean that we don't have to worry now?
Oh, no, I don't think so at all. I think it means we have some time to get our house in order, so to speak, and be prepared. And that means like strengthening opportunities here within Canada, looking at how we are going to be able to support workers and businesses should the tariffs come in 30 days. I think it just really gives us some time to, keep working together to look at how we're going to be able to respond.
How should we prepare for the next month or so here for a renewed tariff threat?
So I think there's a lot that we can be doing to look at how can we look for other opportunities for businesses, other markets, and a lot of that does have to do with removing interprovincial trade barriers, which we know provide actually a tariff on our businesses inside the borders. Also, conversations with markets outside and instead of the U.S., so in other countries, strengthening our potential markets with EU and from a perspective of supporting Indigenous business, how are we going to be able to do that? And then also really looking and understanding what the impacts might be, and particularly for Indigenous businesses, those sectors that could be hardest hit. So would that be oil and gas, forestry, agriculture, mining, where we know that Indigenous businesses are very active and Indigenous workers are very active. And also, and really importantly, that a lot of the businesses in those spaces are owned by communities. So what's the impact going to be on communities, and how are we, certain that supports that are going to be rolled out will support those communities and businesses, and that the government understands those unique needs.
When big things like this happen, when you look at like the pandemic, it's Indigenous people's businesses that are often hurt the most and impacted the most. What were you hearing from business leaders?
Yeah, so definitely, Indigenous business in a lot of ways is like every other business in Canada. And one, we have to dispel that myth that we're not businesses that export. We're not sophisticated businesses in sophisticated markets, because we are. And we have members who are exporting to the US, to European Union, who are looking at strategies to expand their markets as well. So from a perspective of how are we supporting business in Canada, that applies to Indigenous business also. but then us really looking at those sectors that are going to be hardest hit and how can we ensure that those businesses are supported. And then particularly also businesses that a huge amount of their exports go to the US. So if I think about seafood as an example, where they have a large export portion to the US, how are we finding them alternative areas where they can participate in other markets and customers?
These tariff threats have exposed, how reliant Canada is on U.S. trade in goods. Does it also show a weakness that we're under-investing in Canadian businesses, especially Indigenous businesses?
I would say it has, but it's also exposed just how interconnected our trade is in general with the U.S. Some of the work on this council, for me to be there, I've learned a lot as well. And one of that, just as an example, is there's a certain part for Ford trucks that actually crosses the border 6 times, back and forth, originating in Mexico and then back and forth between Canada and the US before it's actually put in the truck and sold. And that is interconnected trade that supports business everywhere. And I think if the tariffs do go in, American people are going to feel it as well. Definitely, I think there are regulatory barriers that we need to remove to support business, support entrepreneurs, and support scaling up. And we also need to really be supporting innovation and innovative businesses to ensure that businesses here in Canada want to stay and continue to do business in Canada. And access to capital remains to be a significant barrier for Indigenous businesses. The National Loan Guarantee Program will definitely help that in some ways for us to find equity positions in larger projects. But just understanding how programs need to be rolled out that support Indigenous business as well, and the unique needs of those. And I think that work needs to be done. And that's part of, a little bit different between now and COVID is that we're ready and we're here at the table, able to influence those programs before they're designed.
Tabitha, we'll have to leave there, but appreciate you taking some time to share your expertise on this with us.
Thanks very much. Miigwech.
Métis in Alberta celebrated a new affordable housing project today. That story and much more still to come after the break. Welcome back. A new affordable housing development had its ribbon cutting ceremony on Monday in the Griesbach area of Edmonton. APTN's Chris Stewart got to see the new building firsthand.
The Otipemisiwak Métis government, formerly known as the Métis Nation of Alberta, are putting the final touches on the Cecil Belrose Manor. It's named after the former president of what was MNA Region 4 in Alberta, who passed away in 2021. On Monday, they gave a tour to media of the 127-unit building. It will have 42 barrier-free suites with accessibility for disabled people, 10 fully automated suites, a gym, and childcare for its members. The rent will be set at a lower rate than those offered in the city. This will allow families to afford to stay.
We are very excited to be here today and to officially cut the ribbon for the Cecil Belrose Manor. This is a project that our housing corporations have been working on for a long time in collaboration with the City of Edmonton, Canada Lands, and we're really excited that we're going to be, getting more people into stable housing, more of our citizens into stable housing.
President Andrea Sandmeyer says high living expenses make it harder for people to stay afloat. She says they are prioritizing single mothers.
It's an expensive life right now, and we need to make sure that they're able to, buy groceries and do the things that they need to do and have a safe place for kids. And it's putting a dent in it, but we have a lot more to do.
She says they are looking for partners to build more affordable housing for their citizens around the province.
When we can put 4 walls around a family and give them a warm place to call home, I think they're going to thrive. They're going to be able to have a happy home and be able to have a great life.
Families are expected to move into Cecil Belrose Manor this spring. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
A nursery to grade 12 residential school curriculum will soon be available in Manitoba. The Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre started rolling it out this month to some of its 49 member communities. It comes in a 4-bundle set filled with teachers' guides and lesson plans for all school-aged kids. Hear from 2 of the developers about how the new resource is based on the experience of residential school survivors.
So there's a framework that we created where teachers can check off. My name is Brenda Delorme. I'm from Cega'kin Nation, and my role here at the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre is the manager for in-school and community services. We tried to create resource bundles, which would focus on Manitoba stories, because as you know, we're still living through the impacts of residential schools. My father is a residential school survivor, I'm a day school survivor, and then when we go and do the training in the local community, often some of the teachers are residential school survivors. And so when we do training at the schools, we do bring in elders who share their stories. Okay, so this Our Residential School Story was written by Melody Dumas.
It means everything, because before the schools didn't teach none of this. Hi, my name is Diane Powderhorn, and I am the instructional resource developer, and I am Saising Dene from Tadulili. I went to Dauphin, a Mackay residential school, from 1973 to 1975. We would leave the end of August or beginning of September. In my case, it was on a float plane and then land in Thompson and then get on a train from Thompson to Dauphin. It was a 3-day train ride. First time on the train, and it was so long, and I remember lots of kids crying. And it's like our history was forgotten before. Now it's like we're showing everybody. We're showing the kids, we're showing the babies, we're showing the teachers, we're showing their parents the history of what happened. It's like, oh my gosh, it just warms my heart, and I'm excited for the child taken and the parent left behind. And I thought, oh my God, right there looking at it.
It's amazing what the stories are about when they're shared by the elders with the children at the schools. They're gentle stories, but then they make a large impact on building empathy towards why we are and who we are.
A new episode of Face to Face is coming up tonight, right after the news. Our guest is Ellen Gabriel, and we'll bring you a preview of that and update you on the latest from southern Saskatchewan coming up after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. A clear sky, bright sun, blowing snow, and only -40. That was the day enjoyed by April Isidore from Slave Lake, Alberta. Sounds familiar, April? Thanks for sharing. Keep those photos coming by sending them to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. 3 below in Fredericton, -8 in Halifax. 20 below with snow in Kuujjuaq, 19 below in Nain. Sun's out and -11 in Montreal and Val-d'Or. -5 with snow in Sault Ste. Marie, 8 below in North Bay. -9 in Thunder Bay, -13 with snow in Sioux Lookout. 12 below in God's Lake, cloudy and -17 for the Paw. -13 and flurries in Winnipeg, -14 with snow in Dauphin. 17 below in Regina, flurries and -20 in Saskatoon. -21 with snow in Meadow Lake, 20 below in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, 16 below with snow in High Level and Fort Chipewyan. -22 and flurries in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. 0 with snow for Vancouver and Victoria, -12 in Kamloops, -17 in Prince George, 12 below in Smithers. -12 in Old Crow with snow, 15 below in Whitehorse. -8 in Yellowknife, -9 with snow in Norman Wells. -27 in Sax Harbor. Snow and -8 in Colville Lake. -25 in Chesterfield. 22 below with snow in Whale Cove. Snow and -25 in Resolute. 32 below in Arctic Bay. This summer will mark the 35th anniversary of Canada's violent siege of Kanesatake and Kahnawake, known to many as the Oka Crisis. Ellen Gabriel was a spokesperson for the Mohawks at the time. She's our guest on an all-new episode of Face to Face tonight. She says the summer of 1990 was a watershed moment for Indigenous peoples.
To see that these colonial governments are willing to go to the extreme of using an army against a small community, I think was also a motivating force for a lot of people to wake up and say, yeah, it's true, this is our land. We do not have to accept the postage stamp size reserves that we live on. We have a traditional territory, traditional homelands that we can protect. So it actually helped, I think, Indigenous people not be ashamed of who they are, not be ashamed of the language that they spoke. It created that sense of pride, I think, in Indigenous peoples because we had done something against the colonizer in 1990 to defend our lands and to say to people, we are here. We are not just invisible in this big melting pot that you call Canada.
You can catch that episode with Ellen Gabriel right here in less than 2 minutes from now. We want to provide you with the latest now from southern Saskatchewan, where there is confirmation of multiple deaths. Saskatchewan RCMP and File Hills First Nations police now say they responded to a report of sudden deaths this morning at a house on Carry the Kettle First Nation, where they located 4 deceased persons in the residence. They say the deaths are suspicious. RCMP say there is currently an increased presence on Cega'kin Nakota, where there were reports of a male pointing a gun, although they couldn't say if it is related to the sudden deaths at Carry the Kettle. They're asking the police to remain vigilant and exercise caution if in the Cega'kin Nakota area. Police say further updates will be provided when they are able to. We will also continue to provide you the latest over on our website, aptnnews.ca. And Creason will be here at 1 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow with your first look at the day's news. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy Miigwech, thanks for being with us. Have a good night.